I was just asking Troy if, because we knew that Lulu wasn't gonna be doing it today. We
I
didn't.
don't know, she's not,
No, I think she said you are.
okay?
Where's mine?
Are you in the building? Oh, okay. I just wanted, I wanted my safety factor. In case something happens. You what now? Yeah, I know, but I just making sure. I didn't know if he was, I went back there and looked for you. If he wasn't in any places. I haven't seen her this morning, so I didn't know.
I don't think you're. Be like, it's super strong. I think you go.
I've worked so far, but I didn't get a specific.
Is that one day this week?
This last.
Well, we-
I had a couple different.
Oh, yeah. I had to leave to go into the-
Good afternoon. Welcome to our second meeting of the Arkansas Infrastructure Planning Advisory Committee. And I appreciate all the participation today. I know we have a couple of folks that have texted that indicate they will be joining us here briefly, so we expect a few more people to join us at the table up here as potentially also in the audience. So I know we also have participants in the committee. I believe we have a few on Zoom. Some of our committee members. We also have the public listening via YouTube and I believe on our fan channel. So thank you for joining this conversation and listening in to hear this subject matter. I think it's important to the state. Again, for all our committee members that are present or their delegates, we appreciate you being here. And visitors, if you are here at the Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment headquarters building, I usually try to make a point to make you aware of our emergency procedures briefly, so some of you heard this last time, but we currently don't have any scheduled alarms or expect any this afternoon, so if there is one, we should take it seriously. In the event of an emergency or fire alarm, we would ask everyone to just come and take exits over here to the exit doors. Just exit over here to the audience's right or the city's, committee's right, audience's left, and the other outside of the current parking lot, which is adjacent to our outdoor amphitheater. At that time, we'll take measures to make sure everyone's accounted for. And also, in the event you just have a personal emergency that occurs during the meeting, you can let Troy Gill in the back, he can let us stand here, if he's back at the computer, let him know and he will assist or have someone. So we have also for your convenience, if you need access to our public restrooms are available on each side of the elevators on the hallways. With that, I'd like to begin the meeting. I know an agenda has been distributed to the committee members, so if you want to reference that, I hope this we can move the meeting efficiently and conclude. I think we've allocated about an hour and a half of this meeting, but we will do our best to give you some time back if that's possible, based on the interest in the discussions. So anyway, we have a number of interesting items I think will worthy of discussion, so we want to make sure we give the committee full time to voice any questions or concerns. Starting the meeting now, I'm going to make an announcement, and I have a handout here that I'll give you. Ben Thompson, for you to thank you. Today, Governor Hutchinson announced he has signed a memorandum of understanding with Oklahoma Governor Stitt and Louisiana Governor Edwards on the coordination of a joint application for a regional clean hydrogen hub grant pursuant to the IIJA, or the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. If successful, these three states will partner with universities and private industry to advance the value chain of hydrogen production, and the unmatched diversity of end uses can and will be demonstrated here within the three states. This is a very exciting effort for Arkansas as an energy leader and the region of the country. For those of you that aren't familiar, hydrogen is already produced across the United States and the globe and can be supplied from renewable, low, and carbon neutral energy, as well as from natural gas sited along with carbon capture and storage. Some example of possible uses of hydrogen in the future could range from individuals who choose to purchase a drone and power a hydrogen fuel cell for longevity of flight time, all the way to long-haul transporters, who we know we have a big industry in that market here in Arkansas, as well as chemical manufacturing for the future. All these applications have tremendous environmental benefits, but also cost benefits to the user. So we look forward to this partnership and the advancement of an application going forward in the fall. This type of regional approach is something I know the governor spoke about when he joined the committee to charter this committee about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And in his remarks, he recommended that this committee work together and with others, and particularly in other states, to better understand and recommend how the state can benefit from regional partnerships through the IIJA. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you want to, that was just a copy of the announcement and MOU that was sent out. There's links in there if you want to go online, you can see actually memorandum of understanding. As recognized in the executive order and the previous discussions, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act provides about $1.2 trillion, again, across the United States in grants, dedicated spending on infrastructure projects, capital assessments, and workforce development. Since our last meeting, we're beginning to try to break down what that act looks like and what it means to states and local governments, as well as others, tribes, and others that will receive funding. There's been tremendous effort by the White House and federal agencies to begin to communicate and bring folks to the table on distribution and spending of these dollars. Several webinars have been held, and even an online university has now been created where you can go back and listen to tape discussions from some of those federal partners and how they intend to distribute funds. Underlining this outreach effort, the White House also released a searchable guidebook. And some of you may have gotten access to that. It's called bill.gov. It's something that's kind of helpful. I think it's very searchable. And it's version 1, as they described. It's a good resource. However, they do intend to do some future revisions to this guidebook to make it to include additional information and make it easier to keep up with updates. We also learned there's also a password protected searchable database through FFIS, which is a financial system that many of us as state departments are financial people that have access to. So if your financial person doesn't have a password, we can provide it. Arkansas does have a contract. So both of those databases can give your own departments and your divisions a clearer eye of what's coming and how quickly it's coming. Some of this is going to be really fast. Bill.gov, I know, has a notification system. If you register for it, where it provide dates and information when the solicitations are live or when they're planning to be live. So also the National Governors Association is providing significant organizational support to the states through calls to the infrastructure advisors that have been appointed by governors, as well as a face-to-face meeting they held on March 3rd and 4th. And this meeting was held in conjunction with our friends at Ashton, I believe, and I know that the national meeting of the state transportation officials. So Shane Corey and I attended at the request of the governor's office. We had the opportunity to hear, from DOT Secretary Buttigieg, as well as Commissioner, who's the senior advisor and infrastructure coordinator for President Biden. And Julie Lake was also in town for other business and participated also in some of those discussions. And we really appreciate her taking the time, as well as Lori. You sat through a number of discussions on infrastructure probably at your meeting, and I think all this is helpful as we begin to better get clarity on the actual benefit to Arkansas. So I'm going to stop for a moment and ask Shane Corey to spend a minute or two to share a little about what we learned on NGA coordination with the states on infrastructure.
Thank you. It's working. Okay. So I think the biggest thing we learned is we're also trying to figure out what we're doing at the same time. And unfortunately, we're also in competition with a lot of these other states. So I think the good part about the meeting for me was to see the perspective that other states are having. And it kind of seems like we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out how to keep track of these deadlines, how to coordinate and come up with state priorities overall, because we don't, as you all know, we don't control all the pieces. Like a lot of this is going to go to cities and towns. And how we're going to keep up with it still is a good question to me. But The thing that I took away, I think, is the ability to set the state priorities can be key. And I think those states that are able to set priorities quicker, better, faster, and in a more cohesive manner are going to be the states that are more successful. A lot of the states had structures like we've had, where the governor has appointed existing cabinet members and or state employees to track it and come up with their state priorities. But a lot of them also have basically created new either positions that are kind of like a sub-cabinet position or a new position or an office within their own governor's office who are tracking this, to try to capture and prioritize a lot of the funds that are available. So I don't know that one system is better than the other, but I think whatever system we have, obviously our governor has chosen the system. I think it's going to be important for us as this committee to try to make sure that we're all on the same page, because while a lot of the funds are set and each state's going to get a certain amount based on formulas, there are a lot of things that are going to require either public-private partnerships or additional funds. And if we are able to identify our priorities and maybe find a way to expend some existing state revenue, we'll be able to capture and bring a lot more of that infrastructure money to Arkansas. Now, I'm not saying that the infrastructure personally, I mean, not the fast the infrastructure bill was up to me, but the point is, it's there. The money's going to be spent. They are intent on spending the money, so we might as well do everything we can to make sure that we're getting as much as Arkansas as we can. If we don't, places like California, New York, we're also going to be on top of these things. We're going to get money to spend. So to me, it was just kind of interesting to see the participation, how the states are structuring. There were some representatives from federal entities that were there as well. And I kind of go back to them a little bit too, because they're trying to come up with how are they going to get the advisory statements and opinions out in there. There was a lot of discussion about clarifying some of the existing programs as to can they clarify what are reimbursable expenses for this state? What can we use on consultant fees? What's not reimbursable? So this is going to be a lot of moving pieces, and I think, for me at least, it's island and see how much stuff we're going to have to come up with. But the biggest thing, like I said, is for us to be able to prioritize what our government, what our state government, and our leaders want to do in Arkansas and move forward.
Well, thank you, Chad. Also found the meetings interesting. I did think that we were either ahead of many of the states, or perhaps in some regards, but we're all learning as we go. So while organizing, I think the calls in the meeting did bring a little bit more clarity to myself. I wish all of us had in those meetings. But my takeaway, though, and it was clearly communicated by some in the discussion, that it's very different by design and process than the previous CARES Act and executing it. So this bill designs these silos, loads of funds, and so, and in some cases, they're added money to existing money to already getting, and I think some there's been some confusion on how much funding is old versus new money that will be coming to the state. So we just getting a better handle of that at your department level or division level would be very helpful, I think. The federal agency officials are basically building the car and driving the car at the same time, as Shane described, and so it's, but they're asking for input, so this is the time to clarify that, hey, we need eligibility for administrative consultant, support for application development, let us charge that back under even a grant award, things like that. We need to get that in the order as they ask for it, and then we RFIs. So let's try to do that if you have an RFI before you. But time is of essence in their minds to get the monies out to states and local partners and tribal partners. They highlighted that $100 billion has been announced, allocated to states or directly funded in the first 100 days. So even though they don't have the rules or the programs necessarily in place, they're still starting to fund programs. So like the car analogy, the racetrack is live. We can look at it that way. The good news is this is a 5-year, so even if it takes us a while to get our car designed, so we can win the race at the end of the day, we may have a little extra time, we may not see it in this first year, but I know that was the governor's intent, was to get us on the track and ready to live. So, with that, the NGA has responded to a request that many of us at the state level asked for, which was to post a calendar of these opportunities, so it's a little easier than going through that guidebook, because the guidebook has a lot of that, it's hard to see what's really hitting this next month and next month. And so this NGA link, which we can provide to you, is a very, I think, will helpful to you, it will give you a resource on what's in your windshield and what's in our windshield. Several ways, though, to see the longer range picture of what you can be working on and creating partnerships around, we want to talk about too. And I think that's where our staff, police staff, can be helpful to you as we develop some tools along with these other federal. So we want to work with you on that. Also, in my discussions this week with our Oklahoma, my counterparts, we talked about hydrogen. He mentioned that their cabinet and division directors have been directed by the governor there to arrange meetings with their federal counterparts on a bi-monthly basis, either face-to-face or meetings. And the federal government, they have specific people assigned to do infrastructure, and they're very open and interested in those meetings. So I would encourage you to consider that if you haven't. I think that's an excellent way, and I think it could pay huge dividends in building that rapport with the federal partner, as well as help stay in touch with what they're thinking and communicate. Bringing this closer to home, though, I think this committee will be a resource to you. We hope that's the goal of this committee. As well, but also we can hopefully be a resource to local governments as they begin to understand the investments they make in Arkansas. Finding that most of the money that comes to Arkansas will distribute through our departments and divisions by members of this committee. So we want to make sure that all of us are on top of it. This will require additional work, and we want to talk about how we can hopefully resource some of that additional work. But we hope that the committee can help continue efficient and effective delivery of this for Arkansas. So, in the spirit of being efficient, staff of several departments have done some significant work over the last few weeks since we last met to pull together requests for proposals for solicitation of consulting. And we have a proprietary draft which we shared with you, I believe, the last day or two. That draft is was self-developed through staff from TSS. Thank you for that. You're sitting here at the table. I'll have separate lecture. And also the staff leadership thing. We're having staff develop these and programs. I know that TSS also, since we started that, provided an updated schedule on the process of solicitation, which you should have in front of you now. I don't believe it's in a pair, but it's in your packet today. There was updating the schedule on how the procurement process is run. And so you can pay attention to those dates. I just want to express my appreciation to this team of individuals at TSS and PNE. I know other states that were in those discussions at NGA last week were keenly interested in getting copies of the RFP we were doing. So we might want to give it to them. We'll wait till it's like our consultant and English, maybe. So it's the avoid competition. But anyway, I will recognize though that E&A staff members that helped on this was obviously Dan Helpington and Tricia Trees here in the room are taking the lead on this. Taylor, Lucy Cross are also present, or continue to get support from Cordial and Thompson under the leadership of Donald Davis, who's the leader today. This RFP, if you look at it, I don't know if you've got a copy in front of you, it's designed to bring a consultant to the table that can help committee members in three primary areas. Strategy on what's a priority for you, and transparency, which is there's ideas to have a way to report out to the government, to the public, where money is actually being spent as a result of this bill. Financial accountability, which I know is near and dear to Secretary Walker's heart over here, as well as it should be to all of our hearts, and reporting back to the federal level where the money comes from. There will be some accountability on all of us to make sure that this money, any of this new money, has certain requirements and different reporting than what perhaps we've done in the past, making sure we're aware of those. And then thirdly, the consultant would be able to provide supplemental resources to departments or divisions to help prepare applications should we decide and be authorized to pursue that application. So, as I understand it, the way we read the procurement, and I might have to mention that we would fund that these services would be funded by each department who requests those services at the time. That's the best way to do it. And although I do believe we will want to establish a project manager, I don't like a consultant to not have a project manager in charge, so we will want to somehow have a committee assign a project manager to coordinate requests that go to the consultant and also ask the consultant to provide an overall report back to the committee on any work being performed for each department. I think that would be helpful for us to all know where the consultant is working and what they're doing. So I can take volunteers on that later, but or I perhaps might use my chair privilege to volunteer someone. But let's do that. We'll figure that out. But I did want to call on Secretary Walter first, and then Rex. I didn't want Mitch. I might call on him to add any brief comments to what I would explain. If there's any corrections yet or anything that you would add. Plus, as well, if you would identify those staff that really helped to this point. I would appreciate it.
Yes, I'd be glad to. Paul Lothian and Andy Babbitt are in the back of the room, have been working along with the team to develop this RFP along with TSS. They've done a lot of groundwork. They've also been involved in these kind of processes before, so they have a great understanding or deep understanding of what is necessary, the way to structure the consulting contract to make it in agreement with the federal law as well as the state laws that we have to deal with also. So, Paul, do you have anything special you want to say about the structure of the contract and the structure of how the consultant will be used and how we'll pay the consultant for the work done?
Just a couple of things, sir. As Secretary Keel mentioned, so there will be a contract, that will be a statewide contract. I'll let Mitch talk more about that, especially when we figure out how that operates. He's head of all this procurement section. The accounting for it, you'll need to do a cost allocation so that whichever program is actually being worked with inside the department, the funding for that has to come from that funding source. If we're talking about a grant, additional grant for something that you already have a program for. If it's something like the vehicle charging stations where you don't currently have a program, then you have to fund that out of some other source of state revenue to the point that you then got your grant approved, and then you'll be using administrative costs that's about from that grant. That is how I understand it. Having said that, we do a lot of accounting work, we do a lot of financial reporting, we do a lot of governmental reporting, but I don't have a grant accountant that works on specific grants time after time, year after year. So you don't have to read those grants to see exactly what's there and what's available to you. And I think that's a starting point that you have. Something existing, something you're already doing, is enhancement to that program. I think the federal dollars can help you get that next grant. If it's not already on your plate, I think you need to use some other sorts of funding until you get that grant. That is all about.
Hey, this is Mitch. The two individuals in my department that worked on these RFPs were Brandon Schroeder and my Paul Ford out there. I think most people have already touched on the contract a lot. The only things I would add is we may end up running these as two RFPs, maybe a consultancy RFP and then an administrative RFP to try to help kind of on the grant side and then on the accounting side of things, right? You've got the schedule in front of you, and that kind of lays out the process for the RFP. The goal will be the quicker we can work on this, the sooner we can get it out and awarded. Hopefully by mid-April, we can have those awarded. Other than that, is there anything I need to add on that, Paul?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right, here we go. April 19th.
Secretary Keel, one thing I might add, as we've seen in CARES as well as AARP ARPA, from time to time, they do reevaluate their rules and can make changes. If there are problems that they see that are common to a lot of different states, they have made some changes. So, the way they deal with the administrative costs is a little cumbersome. I think it's the way we're thinking about it right now. And that could change, but right now we don't know that. It'll only time will tell something like that.
I think that's a good point. Now, some of the communication we had at the national government discussion was that had to happen, that the rules. And I believe the federal agencies are trying to make sure they can make adjustments as long as they're not bound by some, federal restriction law or something. So that they're trying to be as broad and responsible about it as they can possibly. So that's why I think that relationship building with the federal partner, the grantee or grantor will be helpful to make sure they know what our gaps are, pinch points would be in getting this money out, because that's their goal. So at this point, I guess we could open it up for discussion. I know that I called it proprietary because we don't normally allow procurement documents out before we begin a process. So, but if there is no discussion, I would be happy to entertain a motion to authorize the Office of State Procurement to proceed with this solicitation. Obviously, we have a few final edits that we'll be making around and we may want to add that project manager function and how we'll do that. Maybe we should do on that. And reporting back to the overall spend or process. Anyone? So I'm on to make that motion.
Are there any questions?
No, we'll take questions first. Yeah.
I didn't just want to make sure.
I didn't mean to cut off questions. I'm sorry. Discussion, any interest in the consultant?
So I would have one question. Are you prepared to move forward with it pretty much immediately, or should the motion be, we have the framework for the RFP and you're working on the details, and then once you get those details, this motion would allow you to go ahead and move forward with it and put it out for bids?
Yeah.
How do you
I think
want
the
to?
way that you just described the Secretary Walter is the way I would want to do it, yes.
Then I would make that motion that we approve the framework that we have presented to us today, the request for proposal map, and that as they finalize this, and obviously this is the approach you want to take. I think we all agree with that. That once you've finalized this, barring no large changes, what you do, I'd suggest you come back, but that you move forward and I guess the next step will be to.
So, if I could, so when we go out with this RFP, right, we'll go out, we'll solicit bids, get our list of bidders. One of the next things this committee will probably need to do is identify people that will be on that technical review team.
Okay.
And so that technical review team would look at the bids, score them, we have cost, and then we have our technical aspect, and we move forward through the process that way and do interviews. So one aspect of this would be probably to get some kind of a technical subcommittee that you would think that would help review these RFPs so that they can be in place and ready when we move forward with this.
Yeah. And I think that would be part of the recommendation, that to allow you to go ahead and select those, that evaluation committee too. So I make that recommendation. Or motion. I make
I
that motion.
intended to appoint a selection committee if that was satisfactory. I was being the committee just to make sure we have the right recommendation.
I'll second this motion.
All those in favor of the motion as presented by Secretary Walker? Any opposed? So we're on the road now. As far as the technical review committee or selection committee, I'm not sure if the motion suggested as Stephen. I was looking to see if we had, again, some individuals. I had spoken to a couple of folks, Secretary Preston, I was considering perhaps asking Secretary Walter, Secretary Ward, and Secretary Cook to serve in that capacity, as well as, I believe, Director Booth, and I would open the invitation of the director too. I don't want to get it too large, but I think having somewhere around 5 to 7 would be enough to get a full review to benefit the committee. So if you are willing to serve without, and I'm sorry, Secretary Cook, I meant to get you an email earlier today on this, perhaps I can share those names with you, recommendations to you, and you can review what Secretary Thatcher.
That works.
That work for you?
That works.
Okay, I wasn't sure if she felt comfortable in the last few reviews. So we'll look forward if any of you are able, we'll follow up with you to make sure that you have the time and the ability to contribute on the time frames you see for you. So, anyway. Well, thank you for losing that agenda item. Thank you so much for that support. Do we have another comment?
Mitch, when does the contract, the proposal go to the legislature? Is that for the end of the process?
That's toward the end of the process. We select a vendor, score all that fun stuff, and then it goes to legislature.
And I do appreciate the fact, because of the time sensitivity, and you'll see as we talk through some of the fact, that some of these grant solicitations are already on the street, that OSP has worked through a process to help expedite that, but also to make sure we have a full and open, transparent process for bidders. We want to make sure that we have full range of bidders responding to this request. So, anyway, shifting to the next agenda item, I guess come back to you, Secretary Walter, for a brief update or your staff on the EFNA Office of Budget efforts related to the appropriations that were established during the next biennium and the process that was envisioned. The legislature, I would ask you to highlight or discuss a bit of the legislative oversight expectations that were set forth, that might be helpful for us as departments to know and understand, as well as FA plan applications, but also how that might be better coordinated efficiently. So with that, is that too much to ask of you?
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now.
Okay, tell us about the appropriations and legislative expectations.
Listen, I've known her for a long time. The legislature, as I mentioned in our January meeting, the legislature, I expected them to do it, and they in fact did it, are going to require, I guess, incremental appropriations for the incremental money that we will receive through this, through the infrastructure bill. And so any new dollars, whether you have a plan or not, whether you have a program or not, and that program has enough appropriation to cover it, you cannot use the existing appropriation. You have to ask for new appropriation for new money. They did that with ARPA. They did it with CARES, and they're doing it with this one also. We will assist you in that as you identify where you have those needs, and where you're going to get, when you're going to get the money, and how much it is. We will assist you through Robert Brecht's organization, to the budget office, in submitting a request to the legislature. Generally, I'm sure it'll be through ALC, which meets monthly. Robert, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
Mic somewhere in the back. You may want to use the mic to be on Zoom. I think it's back there on call.
Only that, so,
I think it was.
only that what I passed out is actually the act or the appropriation that's going to be dealing with Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That's the front page of it. It was just signed on Tuesday. It's not even received by the act yet. It's Act 199. Section 40 of that act are going to be dealing with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That's included after the front page. And if you, I went ahead and put section 41. Section 41 is ARPA funds. It's very similar. And I was actually in the room when this was. I was actually in the room when the leadership of the legislature, they were asked, how do you want to handle this? They said exactly the way our role is. They want control over how these funds are going to be distributed. I think certainly Mr. Porch and Mr. Preston figured out with dealing with broadband, they had a great interest in where the broadband money should go. And obviously, when we came up with the electrical charging stations, you're going to have the same type of issues. The other thing that I passed out is typically those appear, that was part of the peer December meeting. That front page for all the things that are listed. And everything in that first section that deals with money that went directly to agencies. And I think that's where all this is going to be as part of it. And so what you'll have to do, we use an MFG form, which is modified a little bit. That same type of form, I'll link that with examples that I passed out, which you'll have to do. To fill out that form, will kind of state where those funds are going to be spent, and what they want is a detailed plan attached to that. Unfortunately, I think those Arkansas Tech did a really good detailed plan, when they started going, everybody is specific in Arkansas Tech was. And so you'll have to do a detailed plan on how those are going to be done, like with the charging stations. I'm sure you'll have to show exactly where they go. Now, if you're limited by the federal grant, obviously that's going to have a lot to do with this. I would caution you not to limit yourself through the grant process. In trouble doing that too. You apply for these grants. I would just keep in the back of your mind how the legislators react to that. But the process isn't that difficult. It's just it is something that you have to go through. Those peer documents typically come to my office. We send them over to the legislature. They'll go to peer and ALC. Typically, they haven't had a lot to say about it. As long as you've got a detailed plan, they haven't been too difficult. But I think there are special interests in such projects.
And we need to work real closely with each of the departments. We'll be sending out information to the chief fiscal officers of each of the agencies and departments to alert them to be on the alert. We'll need y'all's help. There is, somebody made the comment that they're anxious to distribute the money. And I don't know if any money's been distributed yet, but even though they're anxious to distribute the money, they will require accountability for the money. The state will require accountability, the leg audit will, as well as the legislature. And so we've got a lot of people looking. And so we want to make sure we do it right up front so we don't have issues when the smoke clears and we're reporting what we did with the money and how it worked and Paul Lothian is providing. You want to talk to? Yeah, Paul is developing an additional new coding for his organization, for your organization, so that we can keep account of these separately than what we do today. But we'll still be able to work with it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Robert's covered a lot of this, so it's where so be as brief as I can be. We gave y'all a handout and talked a lot about what the steps will be. At the end of the day, we're going to have new fund centers. We should, like it's put the accounting in, we have new funds. We need to set those up as we become aware of your request. So one of the things Robert and I talked about earlier today was developing a web email address at DFA. And we'll ask for your accounting companies as they make a draw, as they find out they have the grant, whatever those actions are. But they send us an email with just one box that says, here's the latest thing on this. And that will then ping off to my office and go to Robert's office. It'll give us a way to monitor what y'all are doing, what we should expect to see coming down the road. If something comes up that we think y'all made a draw. Last month, we had several requests for appropriation. Then they'll give us an opportunity to get back in touch with your accounting and budget folks to ask them where this is at. Do they need any help? Do they need any guidance? The toughest thing for us to do is get everybody to do the same thing the same way. That's necessary for us to do our financial sector reporting. And ultimately, the federal reports back. Through CARES and ARPA, we had money that came to us directly. We were able to spend that money to give the central services that in on time. We're gonna have some discussions with your staffs, some meetings to lay that out, and send them out some paperwork prior to that, to get a comment back and be able to, have a good discussion, and that discussion as efficiently as you can to get this started moving forward. But there's a reason behind everything we ask for. It's not just for us to have something to do, or your staff to have something to do. So please work with us. We'll copy the secretaries of each department on those communications, because they have questions. We'll be certainly wrong feedback. We're going to get to that process.
Do we know of any money that is flown?
Well, we're gonna talk about that in just Larry, so good lead into that, we'll talk here in a minute about some of the monies as they come. Most of the monies, as I understand it, are going to the car plant anyway, to the federal government, especially on the programs, specifically on the EV vehicle, there's a plan date, there's a date for the plan that we submit. I'm assuming if time allows, that plan vetted through the legislature would be better before we submit it than after. Or that, timing may not allow for that, so we may have to go through, based on restrictions and so. So, and again, have to the extent that detail is understood, there's gonna be a question mark. Secretary, Director is looking at me with P9, so we'll talk about that, but I think what we're gonna have to do is just show that it's gonna have to take a lot of applicability in the case of TV stations or where the federal dollars are required to go for. There's like several phases on those, so we won't be able to put one in everybody's district the first year, kind of thing, but there will be a multi-year plan that will eventually populate that group. So I think that's the kind of things that we will have to check with the legislation to understand for us to appropriately get the money first and then be able to spend it. So, but with that, I'm gonna move quick off that unless is there additional discussion on that, preparations or questions for Larry? Yeah.
So that's the first time I'm seeing language, but just looking at it, am I correct in that, in essence, where any agency or department that's going to have appropriations would have to basically ask you and approval from the legislature to transfer the appropriation to establish that program expenditure line?
What we're saying is we will assist you in getting those appropriations like we do in the normal course of business. We do that in the budgeting process. We'll do that because we've got the relationship. We work with the BLR, and then we'll get it on the calendar for ALC.
You're working with getting the quarterly reports, we may need to get specific questions or monthly reports to ALC at that point in time. That kind of way you need to.
Right.
I was kind of skimming through it, it kind of seemed like that the monthly report is done now, the CARES funds and the ARPA funds, just its own spreadsheet, it goes to peer every month. The other thing about the appropriation, regardless if you have an existing program and you've already got it funded and this is additional funding, this is going to have to be separated for accounting purposes and for tracking purposes. You don't have to use appropriation that's going to be coming from that pot of appropriation in Act 199. So I know it's problematic for some, and a lot of people don't understand because they think they have plenty of appropriation, but for this money, it has to flow as well.
So for a simple example, the only estimated well plugging program, there's $10 million appropriation that exists for a pot of money. There'll be a separate appropriation for this infrastructure money, this state wells. And then that would have to be approved by chief fiscal officer, legislature created, and then there'll be a separate accounting that looks like the job we provide. We may have to go over some agency, we have to go answer questions to some point in time if the legislature had any questions like
Yeah,
this.
so yeah, you have to show it to the peer committee and defend your plan, I suppose. They haven't asked a lot of questions about this direct money so far. If you have to do that, then you would get this appropriation through Act 199, and you would have to spend it that.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I was understanding that.
Paul, we haven't talked about this, but are you going to be tracking this money and reporting like we are the ARP? But it won't be every dollar that comes through the infrastructure bill, because some of it will go directly to areas that won't be accountable to the state, like a city or the county.
Yeah, that's right. I think we're clarifying what's going through DFNA of the formally would go through the appropriation process for you. I don't know. Tudor and for they have separate processes and we will even bring that up in this discussion. So I'll let them figure that one out on their own. So, but hopefully we can make sure that whatever we're doing, I know it's apparent to me that the legislature is interested and wants transparency. So that's the spirit of the discussion.
Does the city need an appropriation based on this language as well?
A city appropriates of the legislature, so that's only going to apply after you get your appropriation.
Okay, I think I mentioned very briefly, you appeared on the screen. Did you have a comment? Awesome.
I'm having a really hard time hearing y'all. I apologize. I'm late. I have flight get delayed. But I'm glad to be here, albeit late. And I'll listen up so I can take notes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. We will definitely follow up with you after the meeting. Well, I think we've covered that, and I think your question was very good to clarify the process. We got one more question down here before we leave this topic.
Sorry. So if there are administrative costs, such as we have a new program and there are administrative costs, I'll get straight to you. If it's cybersecurity and we are doing a vulnerability study or even a feasibility study in terms of creating a partnership with local municipalities, so something like that, is that reimbursable once we get the grant itself, those administrative costs?
I think that's the question of the day from a bunch of people. It will depend on your federal partner that's providing those dollars, how they rate the type of rules, and as Secretary Walton said, they may change the rules as they see that people need that. So I think the states are asking the federal, they did last week, say, please provide for the ability to cover that in a reimbursement mode, once you get the grant awards. So of course, if you're competing and you don't get the award, that's another conversation. So,
I don't know the answer. Do you, Paul?
Well, we need to talk offline. He has a very specific situation.
Okay.
Because they're a cost allocation, reimbursement agency. So we need to talk about that probably offline at more fire than
okay, that's a good clarification. So, and if you have additional questions, I'm sure Paul and others will be happy. I think a good answer is to ask the question on the front end rather than beg forgiveness on the back end. So we'll work through those questions. Anyway, moving forward, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, which is really, I hope it's brief. It's just about our information sharing and status reports. We mentioned in the last meeting that we had tried to develop a tool, obviously there's only one tool now, a SharePoint site or a Teams site, which is your office security provider, you're familiar with that, if you're not, like, that's a little bit of a goal, but we are trying to attempt to develop clearinghouse, hopefully the consultant can help us with that, but we do expect, we hope that you will be involved in helping us provide that information. Tricia Trees has compiled a current look at what we've done. There's a lengthy spreadsheet that we've been handing out. That is an Excel spreadsheet that's more preferable. We can provide you by email a link to that, where you can sort out your specific interests or timeframes or. I think she's provided the state only money. In this round, is that correct, Tricia, or is this all of it?
The breakdown is state only. The Excel file has everything except for direct federal spend.
Okay, so those of you that can't hear on the mic, basically the spreadsheet that's been developed, that's printed out before us today. If you're a committee member, is the state, the monies that will flow through state agencies or departments. There are additional funds that will go local community comprise and some direct funding. That is available in the Excel spreadsheet once we send you the link. We for brevity, which is still not brief, we gave you just the state dollars. So you can see the magnitude of the number of programs that are coming out. I think this it's more helpful not in the short-term deadlines, the spreadsheet, but looking what's coming down the road. So, and your team, your work groups that you're forming can look at this. So hopefully each of you as a department can form a work group or looking at development of that work group. I think we talked about that. And I would suggest maybe appointing an infrastructure advisor to you that chairs that work group for you. And they can be involved in following this and keeping them informed at the department level. As it's become apparent to me in the last few weeks, it's going to be very important for us to set up a simplified system to update and brief each other, but also brief the governor on opportunities and develop department plans as well as priorities. And so we'd like to obviously get his input in the process as we go forward on priorities, and that was one of the tasks of the committee. So, and to be able to, as well, to communicate in a transparent way and to inform legislative briefings. So one of the things that we are looking at, the committee staff is looking at, one, hosting a virtual training session for your work group, staff, or appointed court advisor, whoever that may be. And I don't know if you can identify those to us. We'll ask for that information. They will host a virtual training session on how to use the spreadsheet as well as any other tools that people have questions about. That can help you. And I think she'll be scheduling that in the near future, and we'll send you an email with that information on when that training will be available. And also in the next week, with Dawn Davis or through her communications team, we'll also distribute you kind of a report template that we'll ask for each of you to populate with the information that you have to date on each of your department funding streams. Not all of them, of course, under the SAC. We will then compile that report and provide it to the governor. Our goal is to do that on a monthly basis. So it'll be a fairly high-level template of just basic questions. All you have to do is answer those questions in that report. We'll try to compile it, keep it simple in that regard. So you should see an email on that coming out of our infrastructure advisory email, a template that we would ask, and we would actually timely respond to what you do know now, and as each month develops more information, you can update that on a monthly basis. So I guess the important message is to get an appointment in place for your infrastructure advisor with your departments to assure that that person can be held responsible to make sure, one, that we have, that you have people participate in training, but two, you also are able to support us in these monthly reporting together. So with that, that was just a kind of a control message. If there are any questions about that, specifics from there, we can obviously talk about this as we send that template out. If you have questions at the next meeting, that we want to at least get that reporting process started. No questions? No, a lot going on this meeting. So, and to Larry, Secretary Walter's point earlier, I wanted to ask now if any committee members that want to share on any active funding solicitation efforts you have in the process. We will follow on specifically a few people, which I think warned you about, but I work as under the NGA funding opportunities and also on the calendar. The following dates are identified. There's some dates in March where competitive applications are already due. March 28th, applications closed for the airport terminal program. This is funding that will support building of airport terminals. And I believe it's for different size airports. I'm not sure what this first round. I'm sure this is again a multi-year round. But if I don't know if we have anybody from Commerce or the Aeronautical Board that is working on an application.
I'm sorry.
So we were
My colleague.
talking broadband.
Okay, well, you have the application for airport terminal program, which is for the first time, federal funds will be made available at smaller airports and other size airports for not only construction of runways, but terminals. And so, do you know if there's any effort to put an application
I
in?
would defer to Jerry if he was here, because I know he's working on that issue.
Okay,
Yes.
so that is one that perhaps may get maybe, because of the deadline of March 28th, may have difficulty with this legislative oversight process that we're trying to bring to your attention, and they need to look at how to make sure the legislature is aware of the tight deadline and the fact that there'll be additional opportunities down the road.
Right.
Some also restrictions on that, so, that's one that you may want to pay attention to and bring to the committee what requests might be made on that. March 29th, there's a response due for clean hydrogen manufacturing recycling and that process. So request for information, I don't believe it's not actually an application deadline. March 31st is applications for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's innovative technology deployment. Again, you can deep dive into these on the NGA website on March 31st. There's also another one on commercial motor vehicle operating grants program. And March 31st, Federal Motor Carrier Safety, another one on commercial motor vehicles. So in April, there's a raise grants. Which department raise grants, is that right? I know that's yours, okay. That's Highway Department, and then in April, we also see some hazardous material emergency preparedness grants for states. So I don't know, for states and territories, April 15th, that's the deadline. As well as April 19th, an application due for water improvements for reduction in lead exposure via the drinking water program, or hotel. And then April 29th, America's Marine Highway Project Program. Maintenance and reports, and EV infrastructure plans are due in August. So those are the kind of short time frames. I mean, these are the kinds of things that are actually going to active. None of this money comes to the state, yet these are actually application dates to submit a plan to the federal.
Where do we get those? Are they in the material we have here?
That's in that spreadsheet, but the easier way to do it is to go to the NGA links, which I think I shared with you, but I'll share with the committee members, and it'll tell you those. But each of the departments should be working with their fellow partners to understand if this is something they are going to respond to or not. But I think Director Tudor has a comment. So.
Okay, we're in the process of putting together a raise grant application. We've already identified the project, and we've got a consultant on board to prepare the application. I'm sitting here trying to assimilate all this legislative oversight that I didn't know till. Do we have to get approval to submit a grant application?
I think that's maybe I was trying to clarify earlier, that the approval is for an appropriation transfer, not for a grant application, right? So I think
It's a slide about the appropriation.
right. That's right. I didn't articulate that very well earlier, but I think that's what's going to my mind is the deadline for review isn't triggered by applying for a grant. It would be to actually expend the funds. Did I understand that correct?
Yeah, that's right. You would not have to get approval for applying for that grant. I think something that you want to think about, or some people might want to think about with their programs, for instance. Questions are going to come up, well, why did you do this for Jonesboro? We need one for Smith. I'm just making that up. So I think there are going to be questions like that. People not have to appear just to apply for the grant. If the grant is awarded, you have to go appear to spend money.
Okay, thank you.
Good clarification. Yeah, just again, making sure your legislators know your priorities on the grant. Yeah, that's place like that. Okay, we'll move on, but I just wanted to make sure there are, like I said, between March and April, there's a few deadlines. There's more coming, more in the May, August timeframes. I know there's a number of broadband deadlines coming up as well, although they're somewhat extended. There's a Federal Transit Administration's low and no emissions bus grant program, grants for buses and facilities in May that might be of interest on some of our metro areas, so they may be pursuing that. Anyway, just wanted to mention those. Those are good to look at. Again, it's hard to know all the deadlines unless you really get someone expert at looking at these tools. So that's why we want to try to get them trained quickly and get them on board to help you better discern those deadlines to get you ready for that. So, anyway, is there anybody else that knows they're working similar to your on a competitive grant or some kind of grant that's due in the next 2 to 3 months?
I would just like to inform the group of how we're going to defend the project we selected for this grant. We went to our consultant who has expertise in knowing what checks all the boxes on being the most competitive project. And they told us which project to go for. And so that'll be my defense if they want to say, well, why did you pick this project over this? Well, that was the recommendation by our consultant. So I don't know if that'll help you guys as you select your project, that might be an easy answer.
Well, that's a good point. I think as we get a consultant on board and help you prepare these applications, that's exactly what we're hiring, that expertise is to help advise us on what is going to be competitive, what is the rules, what is this administration looking for to fund in the first year, second year. And so I think that's going to be very helpful to communicate that to our legislator, so they know, we're going for those funds that we think we can be most successful in achieving. So very well spoken. Well, if that's the, at this point, I think we'll learn more on what's in each fund. We'll have more to talk about on these funding opportunities, but as next steps, I just want to make sure we continue to work individually, but also collectively. To prioritize our needs, to be able to communicate with government what we're recommending as priorities, what we're seeing, what the best practice is to obtain and apply for these funding, as we're just explained. But, what's the best use of this? But I know the executive order provides for this committee to utilize subcommittees, which we will be using for purposes of selection of a consultant, for instance, but also utilization of subcommittees to develop specific investment plans, and also to obtain information or take testimony from stakeholders regarding needs, and as well as calls for us to, establish these working groups and reporting process, which we began to do. So those, I guess, in the next steps, I would like us to try to look at those 3 areas and see how we advance the governor's goals in the executive order. So at this point, I would propose that we will schedule a meeting in April, and then we have to take a little bit of an extra break in the NGA meeting got scheduled over this week. We were looking at pulling this group together, and obviously the fiscal session informed a lot of our discussion today. So sometime, I would say mid-April, we will like to pull everybody together. At that point, we will hopefully we would have a consultant selected. We might ask the consultant to present to come to the committee. So, and also, I've also had a conversation with representatives from National Governors Association, and I think they would be willing to come talk about what they see going on in other states. And we may be working with another state on a regional project, and that's something, so we can talk about that. So 2 subcommittees that you may want to think about, and we can think of others, is maybe a committee that would look at development of specific investment plans that might be needed that we could take advantage of public-private partnerships on. If there's something, if you see in one of your competitive grants that would be helpful in a public-private partnership, maybe we need a work group that kind of helps get that kicked off, or maybe even a work group that would work with local or regional government partnership initiatives. You see the hydrogen hub was actually a regional state government partnership, and we have, fortunately, Oklahoma, Louisiana have been, very involved in this for some time and brought us on board a few months ago. So this is something that, the governor's mentioned is helpful, and I think it also makes the applications more competitive when we do that. So I don't know if you have a local, I heard somebody mention a local partnership in the table. Y'all are working on a possibility of a program with work with local entities or something like that.
Yeah.
So if a work group to help people design those initiatives, I don't know if that's helpful, or if we even need those kind of work groups. But you may have a better idea. I just thought we would talk about any subgroups as the next meeting that we would start that would help you as a resource to advance applications. So just kind of as a recap, I would ask that you identify that infrastructure work group within your department, appoint a coordinator or advisor to you, share that back to the ITAC email address. We will share more on the collaboration training. We will also send out the template for this iPad report update that we intend to provide on a monthly basis to the governor's office. So those are kind of the next steps that I have in front of me. I would like to then open it up to any of you. Usually it was pretty fast. So is there any questions or comments or thoughts on how, what we would consider during the next meeting will be helpful to you in April?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. I like that answer. Okay, well, with that, and that was kind of concludes my presentation for the agenda, but I appreciate your time, and again, giving back a little bit of time today, but I wanted to make sure that we got through this, moving forward on the consultant, which I know was a big effort. Appreciate the work that you had for that. More work and selection of that consultant, and appreciate your time and investment in that as well, and you're well deserved. Look forward to next month's discussion, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more each month as we go forward. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
On here. I guess I will.